the field almost unanimously going with Mark Hunt there. And that's understandable. Curtis Blaydes isn't a big name, but there's a lot to break down in this. As Jeremy Kennedy said, and you did a great article on it a while back, Joe, you start to see that top 5 in the heavyweight division. It's 35, and it's up. Curtis Blaydes is turning 27 this month. Like, he's young. And not only is he young, he's accomplished already. He's won his last 4 fights in the division. The only person to ever beat him is Francis Ngannou. He has an excellent wrestling pedigree, like really, really good. He took down Ngannou. Now, it didn't end up working too well, but he's a guy that had a full wrestling scholarship at Northern Illinois University, and I know he was NJCAA National Championship winner. That's good. And Mark Hunt is not getting any younger, but Mark Hunt, Joe, is so good at avoiding the clinch, and we've seen it like against Mir and people like that. He will almost shake people down, and when they shoot, they end up switching to that low single. He'll just limp leg his way out of there, turn, and then he'll wait for them to get up, and he'll capitalize off of that. He uses his head really, really well because he's so small. It's not as easy for people to get their heads and hips underneath Mark Hunt, and the way that he ducks down and will sometimes follow up with a right or left hook, that helps him as well.
You nailed it on the head by saying he uses the limp leg. Yeah. Something I was never really able ever to do when I trained or whenever I do train, because if I don't want that takedown, I'm from the old school Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world. There's a panic button. Technique doesn't work. Whatever it takes, just get out. Takedown, side control, whatever. Would you mind explaining to the people that are tuned in right now and listening later on the limp leg theory? Because it freaking works. I just can't do it.
Well, it really depends. But I mean, Mark Hunt, like, okay, say he's going for a low single. If Mark Hunt's leg isn't limp, I mean, ideally for a low single, like what you saw, like Mir struggle to get, you can't have a limp leg there because like he'll have that leverage to push off of the knee and go down. But the way that Mark Hunt does it, he spins out with it all the time. And because he's able to do that, he's able to just slide right out, to wiggle right out. And then he's like sitting there waiting like, you getting up, bad boy? What are you going to do?
Exactly, yeah.
I got thunder and lightning waiting for you right here. I mean, that's how he does. He's a real small heavyweight. And the thing is, always, if you watch pro wrestling, it'll even show you from a slower aspect. Whenever you see a Jason Jordan or a Rick Steiner or a Scott Steiner suplex somebody, they get their hips underneath their opponent's hips and then do it. That's how you gain that leverage. One of the things that I love about Mark Hunt's game, he'll throw his lead left. No intent to hurt anybody. But what he does, he wants to set somebody up to duck under, and then bam, uppercut, right there it is. And sometimes he'll even, like after he throws that like baiting left hand, he will use it to bring their head down himself after they duck. That way they don't have an escape route. I think that's really, really awesome. And sometimes if he doesn't find success that way, he'll start setting up other ways to get his opponent to drop the head. And that's the masterful high-level striking of Mark Hunt. And with Mark Hunt, it's one of those situations, he is almost like a Michael Johnson of this division. You don't know who he'll beat and who he won't beat on any given day, because on any given day, he can hang with almost any fighter. He's going to, like Michael Johnson, he'll run into the Khabib Nurmagomedovs on occasion, but then he'll show up and he'll knock out the Bigfoot Silvas or give a Fabricio Verdum a run for his money. This is a hell of a fight, and it could be either really good or really bad, because Curtis Blaydes, I would imagine, will rely on his wrestling. See, he is kind of a smaller heavyweight, but he's got to stick with what brings... I don't want to say smaller. He's like 250 pounds, but... so I shouldn't have said that, but I'm very, very interested in this fight one way or another.
Of course. We get to see what this really means for Curtis Blaydes, right? That's the purpose of this fight, in my opinion. Mark Hunt, we know who Mark Hunt is, right? We know exactly what he brings to the octagon. We know what he does all the time. You eloquently explained it. So we know what to expect from Mark Hunt. The goal is to have Curtis Blaydes sleeping, staring at the eyes with another light and a doctor saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" That's his goal. That's his intention. I don't think we're looking for a submission here for Mark Hunt. What we're looking for from Curtis Blaydes is the ability to nullify one of the premier power strikers in this division, a guy that in history, right? What will Curtis do to ensure that he's got 15 minutes not to get knocked out, and B, can he get this fight down to the ground if he wants to and keep control of Mark Hunt, eliminating the fact that Mark Hunt is on his feet where he can generate all that power. Heck, a hammer fist from Mark Hunt would hurt, okay? Any human being. But
yes.
Curtis Blaydes needs to be very intelligent about this, because with this win, or with a victory over Mark Hunt, it looks fantastic on his resume, and it keeps him extremely relevant in a division that's not exactly full of depth. Okay, and we might be the only podcast that continues to bring up the fact that he took down Francis Ngannou and did pretty damn well, taking him to the second round. Curtis Blaydes will gain a lot. His stock value will increase, not a lot, but enough.
He's already ranked number 9.
Yeah, pay attention to this kid, right? And he's a super nice guy. Although that interview that James Lynch had with him a while back made me just pee my pants. What was he wearing, the 1980s Belle of DeVoe shirt?
Yeah.
It was classic. And what's with these guys again in James Lynch's pro picks?
Not wearing clothes?
Shirts. Come on, guys.
Like Louis Smoka's in there cooking eggs sometime. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I think this fight, if he beats Mark Hunt, obviously you're going to have some time before Miocic defends his championship against a Cormier, or Cormier defends against anybody, but I could think of worse fights in the world than watching Daniel Cormier fight Curtis Blaydes, with Daniel Cormier's wrestling pedigree against Curtis Blaydes' wrestling pedigree. Ooh, sign me up for that. Hey, Miocic wrestling pedigree, but if Blaydes beats Hunt, to me, he gets a Cain Velasquez, a Verdum, an Overeem. He ain't getting Ngannou again, I don't think. But
I'd like to see if Overeem is okay and he's going to continue fighting, which I'm pretty sure he is. I would like to see that fight there. But first, Blaydes versus Hunt needs to take place. Let's see what happens with that. Because if Mark Hunt emerges victorious, we just chopped off a contender for a bit. Yep. Right? Blaydes has got a bit of work to do. Not a lot of work. He's not at 155. He's in the heavyweight division. So, just get back in there and win, unless you get knocked out, because then you're out for a bit. But there's a few other fights on this card that I'm really intrigued about.
Well, let's go ahead and cover the main event. Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero. Yeah, I wanted this to be Whitaker. But Whitaker said that he's got a stomach issue, a bad infection. Hopefully he can get back in the cage. It's a shame that they had to do an interim title, but they had to. Rockhold, a couple of things that I'm looking for. That body kick of his is special, but I'm very, very interested to see how that changes when he fights Romero. Because Romero, his stance is different. I believe he's a southpaw, yeah? So how does that body kick change when he's not fighting a righty? And the thing is, Rockhold is a righty, but he fights southpaw. That's why you see him land that counter left with such power so often. There are a lot of fighters that do that too. A lot of kickboxers will do that make that transition. But that body kick being a possible tool that is neutralized. That being said, Whitaker have found a lot of success with the teep kick and all the front kicks and stuff, as opposed to the body kick. Rockhold has also embraced that low calf kick, and I wonder how that's going to change for a southpaw too, because instead of going to the outside of the leg, he'll be going to the inside of the leg. And if you go to the inside of the leg, what does that leave open? That leaves the jaw of Romero open. If he's got to kind of swing that leg away, that might leave him with his head down a lot, like we talked about how Mark Hunt baits people into it. And then there's always the cardio issue, and contrary to popular belief, Romero's fights are a lot longer than Rockhold's fights are on average. Rockhold's are about a little over a round. Romero's usually going to the third round based on at least his average time. Then there's this big question, Joe. Luke Rockhold switched camps. What does that mean for him?
Of course. Well, they happen to be training in the same peninsula, right? They're both in Florida. One's ATT and one's over with Kamaru and the boys. So with Henry Hooft, I'm looking at this from. I don't think Luke. I'm trying to, because Luke has to be technically careful. Clearly he doesn't fear Romero, but Romero is a stifler in terms of, I'm going to lull you to sleep and explode so quickly that you don't know what hit you. Okay, and God forbid if you end up on your back, I am going to pound your face in. That's what he does. Okay,
yeah.
It looks boring. It's la 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 la, and then flashes of brilliance. Rockhold, I wonder, you tell me, Sean, will he be He knows this. He knows this. But will he be aggressive to say, you know what, you're not lulling anyone to sleep. I'm going to stick and move. I'm going to pound you and punch you until you make that mistake. I see potentially a lot of knees here from Rockhold. Okay, and we all know with Luke Rockhold's height, he's not going to be afraid to mangle, to get on the ground with Romero and say, you know what, you so much as leave a limb open. I know you're powerful, but I'm going to fatigue you some way, somehow, because it's a 25-minute fight.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny.
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually had like the lulling thing in my notes because the popular belief is that Romero just goes in and devastates people, but that's not always the case. And he's a very heavy guy on top. He's a master at manipulating, maneuvering another human being. But the thing is, he's not a submission threat at all. Like, he doesn't even bother going for them. Romero is. And that's where I think a lot of the fatigue will play in. Because if you take down a Romero, well, you got a lot to worry about there. Because the one thing he's in particular really good at is at working hooks to baiting people and other things. Like, he'll put in hooks and make you think that you need to worry about that. But it's all just an illusion to set up the body triangle. And I think that Romero is built the type of way. He looks really thick, but I think that Rockhold is long enough to get that body triangle on him. And that, if he gets a body triangle on Romero, that's the beginning of the end, even if it doesn't end the fight, in my opinion. Rockhold has really good scrambles. We saw where he didn't even hesitate to throw kicks against Weidman. And Weidman's got a great single, great double. And when Weidman and Tim Boetsch shot those singles on him, he rolled right through. That could take a lot out of a Yoel Romero. If he's putting so much of his energy and his power into pushing off for these shots and stuff, and then he immediately gets just rolled through by Rockhold, I don't know what kind of battle he's going to face on the ground, that being he being Romero. And the clinch, that's another thing that I wonder, will Rockhold try to bully him around in the clinch a little bit and try to avoid takedowns that way, but wear Romero down. The clinch battle is going to be a very, very interesting one. Romero is, and you don't have to worry about Rockhold shooting on Romero. I mean, we saw Tim Kennedy try, and Romero stuffed it, ducked to the left, and didn't even make contact. Like, he pivoted right out. It was really beautiful how he just completely avoided Kennedy.
The grappling caliber wrestler, right?
Yeah. From the grappling game, it's obvious, Romero has an advantage on taking the fight down and maybe laying on top. But if he makes one mistake, Rockhold's going to capitalize. And if I were Rockhold, I would be all about volume striking, as we saw with Whitaker, who, I mean, he beat Yoel Romero in one leg. I said at the time, that's movie stuff.
Yeah.
Being able to do that. Beating the big, allegedly juiced Cuban on one leg for 5 rounds. That's special.
Stone Osborne's hilarious. 3 words. Yoel is scary.
Yes,
Dude,
he is.
Stone, let me tell you something, bro. Imagine, so I'm doing Titan with Kamaru, right? And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the show is about to start, and I look at the corner of my eye, and I get the wink, and there's Yoel with his wife walking. I'm like, please tell me they're not sitting behind us. Please tell me that. And last show, I think past 2 or 3 shows, directly behind us. And as soon as one of the Cuban fighters is competing, I just might as well take this microphone, Sean, and just point it backwards. Because it's all you're going to hear is Yoel losing his marbles. And you want to see passion? That dude's got passion when one of his boys is competing. And at times when I'm sitting there, because you don't see Kamaru and I, right? Yes. So whether it's in between rounds or blah, blah, something will be going on. And I'll look back at him, and it doesn't matter. He's just going, this beast of a man is right behind me, just losing his beep, talking to his boys in the cage. And I'm just kind of like, you want to talk about scary, Stone Osborne? Yeah, that's passion. Don't piss that guy off. So anyways, he's a fun guy too. He's a good guy to have a conversation with. His wife is a gem, just an absolute gem. But Yoel is he's good peeps, but when he gets into that cage, it's all business. And I think that the big mistake here is he's going to have, well, you have to remember what he did with Jacare in the ground. Mm-hmm. Okay? He punished Jacare.
He sure did.
Big time. Now, we all know Rockhold's defeated Jacare twice, if I'm not mistaken. Twice, right?
I think it,
or maybe once in Strikeforce. Anyways, he punished. Yeah, he punished Jacare big time. Once. So with Romero doing what he did against Jacare, it proves that, you know what, you can't submit me. I'm a difficult guy to submit. And if you try, and if I get my arm free, you're getting just a Cuban leather sandwich right in the mouth. So it's an intriguing fight. It's I think, I mean, if people don't think Luke Rockhold has a fantastic ground game, you're stupid. You're flat out stupid. It's amazing. It's deceptive, and it's tight. He's got that squeeze. It's not the Eddie Bravo squeeze, but he's got those squeezes when he locks in a submission. Ask Tim Boach, right? So, gangster, badass. We'll see what happens there. But it's a fun fight, and then, like you said, too bad it wasn't Whitaker in this, but hopefully Whitaker gets better and we get to see him face the winner.